Human smuggling, man, it's been a big problem for a long time. It's going to continue being a big problem unless the government does something meaningful to put an end to it. So, what is the difference, though, between human smuggling and human trafficking? I figured I'd start with that first, and beginning with human smuggling, which is what this video is going to be about. Human smuggling, also known as people smuggling, involves assisting individuals to enter or stay in a country illegally for financial or material gain. Unlike human trafficking, smuggling involves consent between the smuggler and the individual being smuggled, typically terminating upon arrival at the destination. However, smuggling situations can still lead to exploitation, abuse, and human rights violations, which that starts to inch into the human trafficking side of things. Smugglers often operate within networks and use deceptive methods to transport individuals across borders. They may exploit migrants' needs to escape hardship or seek better opportunities, taking advantage of the lack of legal migration pathways. Smugglers can charge significant fees with costs varying based on the route and destination. For example, smuggling fees from Mexico into the United States can reach up to $4,000, while trans-Pacific crossings can cost up to $75,000. Human smuggling is distinct from human trafficking, which involves transporting individuals against their will or under false pretenses for the purpose of exploitation. Smuggled migrants are not considered victims in absolute terms under international law, but they can still be victims of crime, including human trafficking under the smuggling process. Smuggling operations are complex and can involve various players, including corrupt officials and organized crime networks. International law requires governments to criminalize migrant smuggling, but not those who are smuggled. Efforts to combat human smuggling include criminal investigations into smuggling networks and cooperation among law enforcement agencies to disrupt these operations. Human smuggling is a multi-billion-dollar industry that threatens border security and public safety. It's often linked to other forms of organized crime such as drug trafficking and terrorism. So it touched a little bit on human trafficking, so I don't really have to get into this a whole lot. With regard to human trafficking, victims can be anyone regardless of their race, color, national origin, disability, religion, age, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, socioeconomic status, education level, or citizenship status. The crime of human trafficking involves recruiting or transporting, transferring, harboring, or receiving individuals for exploitation, which may include forced labor, sexual slavery, or other forms of commercial sexual exploitation. Human trafficking is widely condemned as a violation of human rights and is considered a form of modern slavery. Let's see, forced labor alone, a component of human trafficking, it generates an estimated $150 billion in profits each year. The average annual profits generated by each woman in forced sexual servitude, about $100,000, is estimated to be 6 times more than the average profits generated by each trafficking victim worldwide, which is around $21,800. So that's the main difference between human trafficking and human smuggling. But again, this video, it's going to focus more on the human smuggling aspect with illegal immigrants attempting to get into the United States and the different methods as to how they do, and the different organized criminals or the different entities that are involved with getting people smuggled into the U.S. from different regions around the world. So I'll start with this video. This is really interesting. This comes from Fox 26 Houston here on YouTube, and the title is Immigrants Found Hidden in Hay Bales During a Texas Traffic Stop. This was published only 4 days ago, so let's give this a listen.
It seems like human smugglers are getting more and more creative these days. Yeah, these are photos from the Fayette County Sheriff's Office.
This is crazy.
It's showing
They're getting
illegal
crafty.
Immigrants hiding inside what looks like hay bales. But here's the catch.
They are hay
the
bales,
hay
lady.
bales were hollowed out and altered. Police say that the immigrants were hiding inside of the hay bales there, and that this operation was carried out by
You
two
gotta give them credit for
custodians,
their
actually.
cleverness, I
They are
guess.
now facing federal and state charges.
Oh, shit. What the hell? Oh, what was that, lightning?
Whoa, I would not want to be inside that police cruiser.
Oh, wow.
And
I
good
mean,
thing
this
no
doesn't
one
have to do
was.
with
This all caught in
human
4K.
smuggling, but
Lightning actually strikes a police
damn.
vehicle in Newcastle,
Yikes.
Oklahoma. Some pretty severe storms were moving through that.
All right. Anyway, that's off topic. That was wild. Didn't expect that to happen. So this is same story. This one's only about 33 seconds long. It might give just a little bit more insight as to what was going on with this situation. This is on ABC 13 Houston. 13 undocumented migrants, or illegal immigrants, were found hidden inside hay bales.
Border Patrol workers say they found 13 people hidden inside hay bales after a traffic stop along I-10. Fayette County deputies say they pulled over the flatbed truck hauling the hay yesterday morning in between Houston and San Antonio. They say they became suspicious when the driver gave them inconsistent answers. Border Patrol says all 13 people found in the hollowed out hay bales are undocumented immigrants. 2 people from Houston face charges. Deputies call them the coordinators of this operation.
That's just funny how they just don't get their story straight before they start moving people, including things like drugs. When people are transporting stuff like that, they don't really have any consistent stories, or sometimes maybe their turn signal isn't working, or whatever the case might be. Following closely behind a semi-truck, or they're speeding, or they're weaving because they've been driving for hours and hours and they're tired. I mean, it's kind of silly how a lot of these people get busted, and even if they get pulled over, they don't really have any story to give. Like, where are you coming from? Where are you going? Who purchased these hay bales? Where are you transporting them to exactly? Like, they don't have any of their story worked out. They're just like, I don't know. I don't know. That's if they could even speak English, which I'm assuming the driver of this truck probably did. I mean, I doubt they probably drove this thing all the way from Mexico, but I mean, who knows? Maybe they did. They didn't really give any details on that, at least not that I heard. So, let's see. I got one more here. Smuggler jailed. This is from Channel 4 News. This was just 5 days ago, and let's give this one a quick watch. Only 28 seconds long.
An Egyptian man has been jailed for 25 years for conspiring to assist unlawful immigration. Ahmed Abid helped nearly 4,000 migrants cross the Mediterranean from Africa to Italy in an operation worth £12 million, run from Isleworth in southwest London. The judge said he had ruthlessly and cynically exploited desperate people, with the National Crime Agency saying that he had told his associates to murder and throw overboard any migrants caught with phones on the journey.
Damn. Yikes, dude. What a piece of shit. So anyway, that's it's not pertaining to the U.S. specifically, but that just goes to show that human smuggling, it's not just happening in these parts. It's happening all around the world, and people are getting busted for it. So I've got this one, but I'm going to save it for a little bit later in the video. It's from a channel called Cash Jordan. Honestly, not too familiar with it, but I gave it a little bit of a watch, and it's interesting, so I thought I'd follow along a little bit of that. But first, I'm going to get into some of the details with regard to the human smuggling aspects, some of the statistics, what's going on, what is the government doing about it, also who is involved with a lot of the smuggling these days, specifically with the United States. And let's see, below this is going to be a summary of the most relevant information for the period, covering mainly in 2024. They don't really have all the statistics compiled yet for 2025 because we're in the middle of 2025. So anyway, in December 2024 alone, Customs and Border Patrol reported a 60% decrease in encounters between ports of entry along the southwest border compared to May of 2024, indicating a reduction in irregular migration, much of which involves smuggling. However, specific smuggling incident counts were not isolated in these reports. CBP's Missing Migrant Program, initiated in 2017, conducted 503 rescues in May of 2024, reflecting ongoing smuggling-related risks as smugglers often abandon migrants in hazardous conditions. United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, or UNODC, as its acronym is, estimates that between 200,000 and 400,000 Central American migrants are smuggled through Mexico to the United States annually. I mean, honestly, I think the number's a lot higher than that, but we'll go with it. With 2024 figures likely aligning with this range. This suggests a significant portion of irregular migration involves smuggling networks. Globally, migrant smuggling generates billions of dollars for criminal organizations, with routes from South America to North America alone generating approximately $6.75 billion annually for the smugglers. And moving on to U.S. Sentencing Commission data, or USSC for short, in fiscal year 2023, so this is year 23, the most recent detailed data available for the USSC, 26.1% of the 18,106 immigration offense cases reported to the USSC involved alien smuggling, a 35.7% increase since fiscal year 2019. While fiscal year 2024 data is not fully available, this trend suggests a continued rise in smuggling-related prosecutions. Of these smuggling cases, 57.2% involved smuggling fewer than 6 people. 1.2% involved involuntary detention, which would be coercion, or ransom, which would fall probably under the human trafficking umbrella, and 0.9% resulted in a death. The average sentence for smuggling was 15 months in prison, with 89.9% of offenders sentenced to prison. The Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, and Joint Task Force Alpha, which is JTFA, the DHS reported that human smuggling is a multi-billion-dollar industry, often linked to transnational criminal organizations. In 2024, JTFA, established in 2021, contributed to over 310 domestic and international arrests of human smuggling leaders and facilitators, indicating robust enforcement efforts. A notable case in July of 2024 involved the arrest of Abdul Karim Conta in Mexico, who allegedly smuggled thousands of migrants from countries like Iran, Afghanistan, and others through Mexico and into the U.S. So the context and trends behind this: approximately 80% of unlawful border crossers hire smugglers, according to a 23 DHS report, a trend likely continuing into 2024. Smuggling operations have become more sophisticated, involving tractor trailers, commercial buses, and even fraudulent document networks. Migrants face risk of violence, extortion, and exploitation, with some cases escalating to human trafficking. The Rio Grande Valley is noted as the busiest area for human smuggling into the U.S., with daily activity along the southwest border from San Diego all the way down to Brownsville, which is the very bottom tip of Texas. Limitations. Exact numbers of smuggled migrants in 2024 are unavailable due to the hidden nature of the crime and incomplete reporting. Estimates like those from UNODC, 200,000 to 400,000 annually, are based on older data around 2016, but remain relevant for understanding the scale. Data often conflates smuggling with trafficking, as smuggling can lead to trafficking when migrants are coerced or exploited, or if they don't have enough money up front. Apparently, that kind of gets into the whole trafficking thing. If someone who's trying to get into the U.S., let's say they only have like $4,000, but the smuggler is demanding like $10,000. Well, then they'll be in debt to them, and they'll have to pay off that debt one way or another. Anyway, CBP and USSC data focus on enforcement outcomes, arrests, rescues, prosecutions, rather than total smuggling incidents, making it challenging to provide a precise count. So who is doing the smuggling? Human smuggling into the United States is primarily orchestrated by Mexican cartels and transnational criminal organizations, with additional involvement from local smugglers, corrupt officials, and opportunistic networks. Below is a concise breakdown of the key actors involved in human smuggling based on the most recent data for 2024 and early 2025. Beginning with Mexican cartels, the Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, are the dominant players, controlling most smuggling routes along the U.S.-Mexico border. They oversee operations from recruitment to border crossings, charging a peso, or a mafia fee, averaging $1,300 per migrant for route access. Cartels have professionalized smuggling using logistics teams, social media, such as WhatsApp and TikTok, for recruitment, and digital payment systems. They generate an estimated $2.6 billion to $20 billion annually from smuggling, with routes from Mexico City to the U.S. border costing between $5,000 and $15,000 per person. They operate in key areas like the Rio Grande Valley, Tijuana, and Ciudad Juarez, often using tractor trailers, commercial buses, or tunnels. For example, a smuggler named Ricardo in Juarez charged up to 15 grand for, quote, VIP tunnel crossings. So the next organization that is involved in smuggling are transnational criminal organizations. They are in Central America, such as Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, and beyond, which would also include Venezuela and Colombia. In South America, they facilitate long-haul smuggling, moving migrants through multiple countries to the U.S. border. A notable case involved Abdul Karim Conta, arrested in Mexico in July of 2024, who smuggled thousands from countries like Iran, Afghanistan, and Senegal. These groups coordinate with Mexican cartels, handling early legs of journeys, such as through Panama's Darien Gap, and charging between 500 to 26 grand, depending on the origin and route complexity. Also, local smugglers are involved, also known as coyotes. Independent or loosely affiliated smugglers, often called coyotes, operate at the local level, guiding migrants across borders or through checkpoints. They are typically subcontractors for cartels, earning a cut of fees anywhere between $500 and $2,000 per migrant. Coyotes are prevalent in border towns like Laredo and Tijuana, using methods like hiding migrants in vehicles or leading them through remote desert areas. Many are U.S. citizens or Mexican nationals, with some apprehended by CBP, as seen in 2024 arrests. Also, corrupt officials are involved, including the corrupt police, border agents, and local officials in Mexico and Central America. They facilitate smuggling by accepting bribes, which can be 25 to 30% of the smuggler's profits, or providing safe passage. For instance, smugglers in Tijuana reported paying off local police to allow crossings. In the U.S., while less common, some cases involve complicit officials through specific 2024, though specific 2024 data is limited on that front. Another entity involves opportunistic networks. Smaller ad hoc groups, including family-based operations or individual entrepreneurs, exploit migration surges. These networks often use social media to advertise services, targeting vulnerable migrants from countries like China or India, charging up to 35 grand for long-haul smuggling. Maritime smuggling has resurged, with groups in Southern California using jet skis or small boats, charging between $6,000 and $20,000 a person. So let's move on, into the key trends here. Approximately 80% of unlawful border crossers hire smugglers, per a 2023 DHS report, a trend continuing into 2024. Cartels dominate due to their control over routes and ability to extort or kidnap migrants for additional profit. Smuggling networks are increasingly sophisticated, using encrypted apps and fraudulent documents. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists noted that nearly 19,000 migrants smuggled in 170 trucks in Mexico from 2018 to 2023, a pattern likely persisting in 24. Women and children are often smuggled by specialized networks, with 3,200 minors reported in truck smuggling cases, facing risks of trafficking or exploitation. So let's move on here. So how much does it cost to be smuggled? Well, the costs charged by cartels for smuggling humans into the U.S. varies widely based upon factors such as the migrant's country of origin, the route taken, the distance traveled, and the level of service provided. Based on available data from 24 and early 25, here are the key insights on cartel smuggling fees. The general range, cartels, they typically charge between $1,300 and $15,000 per person for smuggling across the U.S.-Mexico border, with fees varying by region and migrant demographics. The peso, or mafia fee, is a tax imposed by cartels for using their controlled routes. Averages around $1,300 a person, up from $850 during the Trump administration. This fee is often in addition to other smuggling costs. By region and origin, Mexican migrants. Fees for Mexicans are generally lower, averaging around $8,600 to $10,000 for smuggling from Mexico to the U.S., including transport beyond border patrol checkpoints. In the Laredo area, single Mexican migrants paid about $10,000 in late 2024. Central Americans. Migrants from these countries pay higher fees, ranging from $7,900 to $11,500, with 2024 estimates averaging $11,500, up from $9,000 in 2020. For long-haul migrants, which would be migrants from China, India, Senegal, fees for migrants from distant countries are significantly higher, ranging anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000, with Chinese migrants reportedly paying up to $35,000 for smuggling services. Let's see here. Let me get a drink of water here. It's a lot to go through. Anyway, specific examples of this. In Gracias a Dios, Guatemala, cartels charge $500 a head for passage through their territory. From Mexico City to the U.S. border, cartels charge approximately $5,000 per migrant, in addition to costs incurred to reach Mexico City. El Salvadorian migrants have been reported to pay up to $17,000 to be smuggled to the U.S. and placed in cartel-owned businesses. In Tijuana, smugglers charge $6,000 to $8,000 per migrant, as noted in a 2025 indictment. Dominican migrants following routes through Panama, Guatemala, and Mexico pay $26,000 for smuggling into the U.S. Specialized services, VIP packages. Cartels offer premium smuggling services, such as safer routes for protection from rival groups, with costs reaching $15,000 or more. For example, a smuggler named Ricardo reported charging up to $15,000 for a VIP trip through tunnels in Juarez, facilitated by local police. Let's see, high-risk routes. Migrants paying for quicker or less scrutinized routes via jet ski in Southern California may face fees up to $20,000. Additional costs and practices. Cartels often require a final payment before the last leg of the journey, verified by a digital photo sent as a receipt. Fees can include payments to corrupt officials, with smugglers reporting that 25 to 30% of their profit margin goes to police or border agents. Some migrants face extortion or kidnapping, with cartels demanding additional payments or holding migrants for ransom, increasing the overall cost. Context and trends. The smuggling industry generates an estimated $4 billion to $20 billion annually, with cartels earning at least $2.6 billion in 2024 from crossing fees alone. Fees have risen significantly since 2019, driven by increased border enforcement, cartel control over routes, and higher demand. For instance, smuggling fees for Central Americans increased from $7,900 in 2019 to $11,500 in 2024. Cartels like the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation have professionalized operations using logistics teams, social media for recruitment, and digital tools like WhatsApp for coordination, which has driven up costs. So in summary, in 2024, cartels charged between $1,300 and $100,000 a person for human smuggling, with typical fees ranging from $8,600 to $11,500 for Mexicans and Central Americans, and up to $35,000 or more for long-haul migrants from countries like China and so forth. Let's see, the peso fee averages $1,300 with additional costs for transport, protection, or corrupt officials. Fees have risen due to cartel control and increased enforcement, generating billions annually for criminal organizations. So there's more information getting into this. What is the government doing to stop smuggling, which I'll get into here in a minute. I'll take a break from the text because I know it's kind of a long read, so I will jump over here to this video, and we'll give a little bit of this a go from the channel Cast Jordan. This was posted as of this recording just about 6 hours ago, so it's got a lot of views, so must have some pretty valid points in this video. So let's give some of this a go.
You're looking at exclusive video obtained by NBC News. It's a traffic stop that turns out to be something else.
Rios, there's somebody in the van right there. Looks like they're trafficking some people here.
So footage of a massive human smuggling bust has been released, and it raises a lot of questions. Not just about who's allowed to rent a 1995 U-Haul van and what exactly their plans are for it, but also why hordes of these things are being located all over the place, sometimes by nervous neighbors before ICE can track them down. And as you're about to see, these vans are being used to move people around who could be incredibly dangerous.
Police say these are Chinese nationals being smuggled into the U.S. This police body camera footage shows two separate January incidents.
Hey, we got the same thing going on.
Illegal crossings are moving from the southern border to the beaches of California. CBP says
to the smugglers out there, you can rent vans without windows, right? I mean, I'm just putting that out there. That's all.
Undocumented migrants are trying to sneak into the U.S. by boat via the Pacific Ocean. Cartels, which are still at the center of human smuggling, are luring people in by calling it safe.
In both incidents, almost 50 migrants were detained.
We believe they came by boat. They came into a secluded area. There was documentation, there was currency, and there was papers.
Two suspected smugglers were arrested, a gun taken into evidence. In the other suspected smuggling operation, 3 Cuban men were arrested after a U-Haul van was spotted with mostly Chinese migrants in the back.
We know that these human smugglers lie to people. They will guarantee them entry.
Man.
They're charging them extreme amounts of money to come into the United States illegally this way.
NBC News obtained another piece of surveillance footage that shows close to 20 people getting into this U-Haul, which police confirm was never caught.
America has declared war on smugglers.
So human smuggling's been big business for years, but only now are we starting to get an entire picture of what a big problem it is. And what nobody's talking about is these are not small-time operations. Oh no, these are highly organized, highly sophisticated criminal enterprises. With this,
because they have billions of dollars at their disposal. And not only are they generating billions of dollars from human trafficking, they're also generating billions of dollars from the drug trade too.
Smugglers themselves, who are often members of dangerous gangs like MS-13, just a small piece of a much larger puzzle that begins far from the shores of America and was growing at an alarming rate when the U.S. border was wide open, allowing for the exploitation of millions of people, some of whom are still living in America illegally right now. And with some of these individuals spending tens of thousands to enter our country with the help of criminals, often risking their lives while doing so, closing the border down and patrolling our coasts isn't...
with the help of criminals, dude, anybody who enters the country illegally is a criminal. That's it.
Just the right thing to do. It will literally save people from getting hurt or having their lives destroyed as they're continually taken advantage of after they get here and go about trying to live
That's why it's important to these people that you pay it in full when you cross over to the U.S. Because if you're in debt to these people, I mean, they could keep raising the percentage rate. Like you owe, like 10% per week or whatever, however the hell they calculate it. I mean, they could put you in indentured servitude, and there's really not much you can do about it. Because, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to give the middle finger to the cartels? I mean, they're going to find you.
Illegally. And that brings us to the real reason why these smuggling rings have got to go and why they still exist in the first place. The smuggling of illegal immigrants benefits criminals of all shapes and sizes. Not just the drivers of these vans, but also the criminal businesses hiring off-the-books laborers who will work just about anywhere to pay back the large sums they owe to gang members and thugs. Driving around in vans like this.
And it makes you wonder if you've noticed the new home building around the country lately. These new home construction houses are just built like absolute shit. They were built just terribly. There was a story that I saw the other day. There was a windstorm somewhere in the Midwest that blew through a new home construction neighborhood, and it knocked down like half a dozen homes. Just absolutely wild. And it kind of makes you wonder, is that the kind of labor that they're employing to build our new houses these days? I don't know.
¿Habla inglés? No. Okay. Rios, there's somebody in the van right there. In the back, I can't see, but...
There's a lot of people. Here's when police opened the door to the van, finding what they believe are people from China.
They tape boxes on the windows. I mean, it's a dead giveaway that
right away, this is weird. The driver of the van appears to be fluent in Spanish, not English, and everybody in the van seems to be from China, revealing that the gangs who control illegal immigration in America are doing business with the entire world, bringing anyone who can pay them into our country. Other gang members, state-sponsored actors, possible terror watch list suspects. And as you're about to see, these operations not only happen in broad daylight, but they also happen in some of America's wealthiest areas.
This is Coral Gables, Florida.
Oh, there we go.
City just outside Miami, dotted with multi-million-dollar homes and luxury yachts. It's home to one of America's most exclusive zip codes. And now it's one of the latest targets for human smugglers. Police say these are Chinese nationals being smuggled into the U.S. through Coral Gables.
Crazy.
This police body camera footage shared exclusively with NBC News shows 2 separate January incidents.
Hey, we got the same thing going on.
Both times, law enforcement stopped the alleged smugglers and detained the migrants.
So these operations, they're not just happening anywhere in America. The average home price in this part of Florida is $1.5 million. It's crazy.
Millions.
And according to the Miami Herald, the people are coming in from the Bahamas where they then get picked up and taken somewhere, which makes sense. Coral Gables is right here, right
close,
outside Miami.
It's like, what, 100 miles?
And it's not too far.
No. It's
from
really
the
not
Bahamas,
that far.
right
It's
there.
directly
One news
across.
report even showed a guy on what looked like a paddleboard with a suitcase strapped to it, who probably got dropped off from some mothership just off Florida's waters, who was then trying to paddle his way in. However, it's not just the distance between this part of America and the Bahamas that makes this a prime target for smugglers.
It's literally a straight shot.
Coral Gables police chief Edward Hudak says smuggling is not new here.
We just dusted off our playbook from the 80s and 90s. This is a human cargo now.
So why Coral Gables?
The same thing's making this such an attractive place to live.
Because
also make it
unlike drugs, the products that they're smuggling over now, they've got legs and they can run. They can run, they can hide, they can think for themselves, they can try to get away. As opposed to having bricks and bricks and bricks of drugs, I mean, you're going to have to move it yourself. The drugs ain't going to move themselves, unlike human
appealing
trafficking.
for human smuggling. Take a look
smuggling,
around
rather.
me. Lots of trees, lots of privacy, and not a lot of people.
The open water leads right into this channel, and if you make it undetected onto land, there's a main road allowing migrants to vanish into the country.
Yep.
That is so crazy. So the way that the Florida coast is here, you can just sail right in, and if you can get inland far enough, you can drop off whoever.
Yeah, but dude, it's easier said than done because the Coast Guard, they're all over this here. They've got to be all over the place around this area. I mean, the technology we have these days with just the ability to surveil our coastlines. I mean, we keep our coastlines under pretty close observation out to, I don't remember what the mileage is. Isn't like, it's like 30 miles or something by sea, and the air, it's like in the atmosphere, it's like 200 miles or something like that. Like if there's an inbound aircraft that we're not familiar with that's coming within 200 miles, I mean, like we're aware of it. I mean, it's not as easy as it seems for a boat to just cruise in, even in the middle of the night. I mean, just the technology and the absurd amount of money that our government spends on things such as the Coast Guard and surveillance and stuff like that. I mean, look, they're getting through, obviously, because they're busting them. I mean, they're making a story on it, and this dude, he's making a YouTube video about it. So I'm not saying it ain't happening. It's still happening a lot, but it's not just as simple as just throwing stuff in a boat and just cruising from the Bahamas. Like, you got to have a lot of stuff sorted out to try to slip under the radar to make it happen.
Your passengers are, then they get picked up in one of these vans and boom, they are out of there. Now, obviously, this is on the news. The police in South Florida know about this, and they're learning that these shiny new U-Haul vans, which you can rent for a super low price every single day, might be doing more than moving boxes and furniture, that's for sure. Police know that there are big smuggling operations using these, so now they're starting to send out more patrols. They're going to start using night vision, and to be honest with you, that's going to be a big game changer, because if these criminals try to come in under the cover of darkness, or if they're trying to hide in the brush with a thermal camera or a night vision camera, they will be able to see who's out there doing something that they shouldn't be doing. But as we just saw, there's so much smuggling taking place here that some of these vans still get through.
Please, everybody take a seat. Everybody sit down.
Chief Hudak says it was actually residents who tipped police off to the suspicious activity, despite his department working with agencies including Border Patrol and the U.S. Coast Guard.
Even with all that coordination, it is still possible for a boat to slip through.
Oh, absolutely. There's ingenious ways to get human beings into this country.
And this route more desirable now that the Trump administration has cracked down on crossings at the southwest border.
Yep. So I'll go ahead and pause it there, and I'll continue a little bit with a little more of this reading here. Because what is the government doing to put a stop to smuggling as we see it today? So the U.S. government has implemented a multifaceted approach to combat human smuggling, focusing on enforcement, prosecution, international cooperation, and prevention. Below is a summary of key efforts based on the most recent available data, particularly for 2024 and early 25. So we've got a thing called the Joint Task Force Alpha. It was established in June of 2021 by the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security. It targets human smuggling and trafficking networks, particularly those operating from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. In 2024, it contributed to over 310 domestic and international arrests of smuggling leaders and facilitators, including a high-profile case in July of 24 where Abdul Karim Conta was arrested in Mexico for smuggling thousands of migrants from countries like Iran and Afghanistan. JTFA has increased coordination with U.S. attorneys' offices and foreign law enforcement, leading to significant indictments, extraditions, and convictions. Felony smuggling prosecutions rose by 27% since 2020, creating a deterrent effect. The Anti-Smuggling Rewards Initiative, launched by DOJ and Department of State, offers financial rewards for information leading to the arrest or conviction of smuggling leaders, targeting high-priority cartel and transnational criminal organization members. We also, of course, have the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which is CBP for short. They conduct daily operations along the U.S.-Mexico border, focusing on intercepting smuggling attempts. In fiscal year of 24, they performed 3,602 migrant rescues, many involving smuggling-related incidents, such as migrants abandoned in tractor trailers or in remote areas. CBP's Missing Migrant Program conducted 503 rescues in May of 2024 alone, targeting dangerous smuggling operations. They have increased maritime patrols in response to smugglers reviving old maritime routes, such as in the Pacific, with actions like shooting out boat engines to stop illegal crossings. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're employing those same tactics over here in Florida, too. So the Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI for short, under DHS, they investigate human smuggling networks that pose national security and public safety risks. It focuses on dismantling pipelines through Central and South America, seizing illicit funds and targeting networks using unsafe transport methods like tractor trailers. A notable case in August of 24 involved HSI Houston sentencing a smuggling leader to 8 years for smuggling at least 560 migrants, often in dangerous conditions, with some requiring treatment for severe dehydration. HSI collaborates with foreign partners to disrupt smuggling organizations and arrest criminals, leveraging expertise in cross-border systems. We also have policy and legislative actions at our disposal. The White House issued an executive order on January 20th of 2025, revoking prior immigration policies and directing DHS, DOJ, and other agencies to prioritize stopping human smuggling and trafficking, especially involving children. This includes enhanced information sharing and enforcement of sanctions against countries delaying repatriation of their nationals. DOJ proposed changes to the U.S. sentencing guidelines, Section 2L 1.1 in 2024, increasing penalties for smuggling based on the number of people smuggled, injuries or deaths caused, and sexual assault committed during smuggling, even if outside the U.S. The President's Interagency Task Force to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, or PITF, coordinates efforts across 17 federal agencies, including DHS, DOJ, and the Department of State, to align resources and monitor progress. We also have international cooperation. The Department of State's Diplomatic Security Service, or DSS, investigates transnational smuggling cases, particularly those involving travel document fraud, working with over 170 countries. DSS collaborates with foreign law enforcement to support anti-smuggling initiatives. Project Turquesca, a UNODC and Interpol initiative supported by the U.S., has led to over 1,000 arrests of smugglers and traffickers since 2019, with operations continuing through September of 2025. It focuses on dismantling criminal networks in the Americas. The U.S. engages in diplomatic efforts to ensure foreign states accept their nationals subject to removal, reducing smuggling incentives. We also have prevention and awareness. DHS's Blue campaign raises public awareness about human smuggling and trafficking, offering free training and resources to identify and report suspected cases. The DHS developed a human trafficking awareness tutorial with Lyft Incorporated in 2024, training over 1 million rideshare drivers to recognize signs of smuggling and trafficking. CBP conducts international outreach to warn potential migrants about smuggling risks in countries with high smuggling activity, aimed to deter resilience on smugglers. And we also have local and federal collaboration. Initiatives like Operation Guardian Angel, launched by U.S. Attorney Bill Esili in Los Angeles in May of 2025, involve federal task forces, which includes ICE and FBI, HSI, DEA, and ATF, obtaining warrants for illegal reentry, 8 USC 1326, to target smugglers in sanctuary cities. State and local law enforcement collaborate with federal agencies to identify and prosecute smuggling networks, particularly in border communities like Laredo, Texas. But there are challenges. There are limitations. Smuggling's clandestine nature makes it hard to detect and quantify, with many cases going unreported. Smugglers adapt to enforcement, shifting to maritime routes or using legitimate transport like buses, complicating interdiction efforts. Some ex-posts suggest inconsistent local cooperation, particularly in sanctuary cities, though federal warrants aim to overcome this. These claims are inconclusive without broader evidence. And that's all the reading that I've got. I've got a ton of links with all that information I just read. I obtained the reading material from Grok, which is on the X platform, but I did obtain a whole bunch of links where you can actually go and read all these articles. But, you know, you can read them if you want, but everything that I just read is summarizing what all these different links are, but I'll leave them down in the description. So anyway, I'll jump back over here and we'll see if we can wrap this video up as soon as it gives a chance.
So the crackdown at the southern border has a lot to do with why these maritime routes are now becoming more popular. That should have been expected, as these are the only ways where you can get to a physical part of America without having to go through some wall or some army base. But here's the thing, these sea-based routes are much more expensive. During 2022 to 2024, people crossing the southern border on foot, they could pay a gang a few $1,000s for passage through their territory, and from there they'd get several crossing attempts. Let's say 3 attempts. They could cross the territory, encounter border patrol, get turned around and try 2 more times. But now those who cross get apprehended, and then they get...
Call me crazy, but I have a feeling that that footage of people just like walking right through the border wall probably happened sometime between, I don't know, January of 2021 to maybe early January of 2025.
Float all the way back to their country of origin, defeating what was a huge moneymaker for these gangs. And that has a lot to do with why the coasts, especially Florida, are now on their list.
Human smugglers are being more creative. They see one route.
They're trying to sneak into a red state
in the southwest border, and they're trying
maritime not a whole lot of sanctuary stuff going on around here, not that I'm aware of.
In this audio message obtained exclusively by NBC News, a man identifying himself as a smuggler tells a prospective customer there are 2 viable boat routes: from Mexico to the Los Angeles area, or from the Bahamas to the Miami area. The Bahamas particularly appealing because Chinese nationals can visit that country without a visa. The smuggler says he can take someone to the U.S. for $35,000.
That is so damn lucrative, man. So they're going to charge $35,000 to put them on a boat to cross 100 miles of water. No wonder there's so many people that are trying to take advantage of smuggling. So many people trying to, like coyotes, for example, people who are taking it upon themselves are not necessarily in cahoots with the cartels. They're just self-employed, more or less, or they're a part of a smaller network. I mean, yeah, I could see how even Bahamians who they're just born and raised in the Bahamas, there may not be a whole lot of economic opportunities for them, and that's a hell of a lot of money. And that's just one run. And actually, per person per run. I mean, if they're going to run 10 Chinese nationals on a boat and they successfully get them into Florida, that's $350,000, man. And that's just one run. Not that they can do that every single day.
A lot of money. If you do that for a few times every single year, you could live like a king anywhere in the world. There's so much money in this. It's going to be impossible to get these guys to stop trying because people are willing to pay that much for a chance to come into the country and be a fugitive.
I mean, yeah, but the risk is just so high, though. The person who's driving the boat, they've got to understand, or at least assume, that their percentage possibility or potential of getting caught has got to be well over 50%. I mean, I would honestly not. I would like to find out exactly what percentage of a risk that would be. It probably could not really quantify that. But there is no way that there's a sizable percentage that they get through each time they attempt this. And the person who gets busted transporting him, he's going to lose his boat. He's going to lose his freedom for a while. It's going to be probably a giant pain in the ass to get sent back to his country, at least not without doing some prison time first. So, I mean, yeah, the risk it's pretty high. And I'm sure they're probably getting busted more often than they're not. But anyway, let's go. Continue on.
But that's why it's so important that these routes get shut down. Of course, as the land borders close, the sea routes are just going to become the only option left. But how does somebody get $35,000 to enter America illegally? Where are they getting that money? Who's giving it to them? This brings up the frightening possibility that some of the folks caught in these raids may either be forced to work off these debts for a very long period.
I mean, like, what about like Chinese balloons? You remember when those things were flying over the country and there was nothing that the Biden administration was doing about it? As well as Canada. A couple of those balloons came into the U.S. from Canada, drifted over the U.S. and just crossed all the way across the country, just snapping pictures all the way across the country. I mean, who knows? They might start flying people in on those damn things. Might start, you know, strapping people to freaking Chinese-made balloons and just setting them afloat, hoping that they make it, and then they could just detach and just parachute on down. Of course, you have to take into consideration the wind patterns and all that too. I mean, you're not going to have a very easy time lifting your ass up in a balloon and flying over the Atlantic into Florida because more or less generally I don't think the air generally moves from east to west like that. So I mean, you set off and you might just end up floating way out into the middle of the ocean or something. I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if they start exploring that.
Or may have gotten that money from some government somewhere who just doesn't really like America and wants them to do something. But before we get into what the potential ramifications of this could be, you've got to understand that part of the reason the fees are so high is because these smugglers have had to make some changes to their operations.
But even if you make it past law enforcement, there are more risks.
They're trying to jump off the boat at improvised docks.
It's just like the computer hacking game. I mean, you always got to stay ahead of them. Or the same with like creating viruses and malware and all that stuff. I mean, like these people have to constantly be coming up with creative ways to stay ahead of the curve because otherwise they won't get ahead at all. They'll just keep getting busted over and over. Time after time.
They can fall in the water. This area does have crocodiles.
There are crocodiles.
I saw one here 2 days ago.
Since January's incidents,
alligators,
police say they've ramped up water
sharks.
patrols.
What are you guys looking for when you're out here?
I don't know about
anything that's out of the ordinary. People who may appear like they're fishing, but they may be lookouts. So we just have to keep an eye out for
like nobody will ever even know.
Bad actors also seem to be adapting. The smuggler sent this video of a yacht claiming that's how he's transporting migrants to the U.S. now.
No.
Writing in Mandarin, small boats will get in trouble. The big boat won't draw as much attention.
They're using freaking mega yachts now?
They might be saving money with the 1995 U-Haul vans,
I guess.
But this type of yacht right here, I mean, that looks expensive to operate. And
yeah, but that's only going to just cause the Coast Guard to just start boarding every vessel that's going to make entry into the U.S., at least from international waters. I mean, now that they know that this is happening, now they're just going to stop everybody. And for the casual person who's going out on their yacht for a couple days or a tourist with legitimate paperwork, they're going to be inconvenienced now because everybody's going to be getting stopped, which is only going to lead to more Coast Guard employment, which is more money the government has to spend to try to combat all this shit. And it's just, it's kind of a vicious cycle, but they're just going to be stopping everybody
as
now.
We just heard, these people have lookouts posing as fishermen along the shore who are just keeping an eye out for patrols. There's a whole operation here
that are
connected to these massive sums of money that people are paying to get into the country. But the truly frightening aspect of this is who's doing the smuggling and who exactly they're bringing into the country. Because as you're about to see, not everyone in these vans could be here for the American dream.
No. A lot of them are here for nefarious reasons, that's for sure.
Here the driver claims he's a rideshare driver.
Let me just see your hands.
Yeah, rideshare.
Okay, doors open, and one after another, a handful of people get out of the van. Minutes later,
license and registration, sir.
The driver wondering what's happening.
How did he get busted?
And once again,
he didn't have
a group
insurance.
of people close to a dozen get out. In both incidents, almost 50 Chinese migrants were detained.
Absolutely crazy.
They came by boat. They came into a secluded area around the southern end of Coral
that's
Gables.
not sketchy.
There was documentation.
Not suspicious at all.
There was currency. And there was papers.
2 suspected smugglers were arrested, a gun taken into evidence. In the other suspected smuggling operation, 3 Cuban men were arrested after a U-Haul van was spotted with mostly Chinese migrants in the back.
There you have it.
So all of these operations have a few things in common. The people driving the vans seem to be fluent in Spanish. The people in the vans, for some reason, they all seem to be from China, probably because they've got more money to pay these.
Well, I don't know if I'd say time and time and time again. I mean, this is just one instance, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of Chinese nationalists are getting into the U.S. through Florida from the Bahamas because they don't require a visa to stay in the Bahamas, apparently, if you're a Chinese national, which I would hope that the current administration starts to engage with talks with the Bahamas to get that closed up. I would assume that they're already working on that. I mean, yeah, the Bahamas, they like, what excuse does the Bahamas have to allow all the Chinese immigrants that they want, or that who want to visit the Bahamas, to come over without a visa? I mean, how does that benefit the Bahamas specifically? I mean, can't they just close up that loophole? I mean, I don't see how that would really inconvenience the Bahamas that much. I mean, otherwise they're in cahoots with China. So, I mean, that's something we may have to look at on that front. I mean, we may have to end up sanctioning the Bahamas. We may end up having to close off that country with regard to, you know, free travel between the two nations. I don't know. But, I mean, that's something that they really got to look into if they aren't already.
Higher fees for reasons that we're going to get into. But these drivers, these are cartel operatives. These are people who are gang members, and oftentimes they're here illegally as well, running these things all over the place. But look at this. A witness describes seeing one of these vans pick people up, and they said they saw people being shoved into a car. And they went and told the authorities. That's very frightening. Seeing people being shoved into a car and handled roughly doesn't exactly give the impression that they're going to live a happy life illegally in America at all. But
especially if you're just out walking your dog or something, you see all that shit happens.
Bust these
like, dude, I paid $2 million for my house. What the hell's going on out here?
If they're here fleeing because of political
I pay way too much property tax to see this shit.
They had communication devices, cell phones. They had money. They had papers. So we realized
they had Chinese
that they
money.
were
They had
illegally
Bahamian
coming
money.
in, and the smugglers were now
pesos and shit.
You know, the people are targets of our criminal investigation.
Tomorrow. So they're finding people with communication.
Well, and also another thing that gets a lot of smugglers busted. I remember seeing this on some drug documentary, that they'll have like the Coast Guard will stop a boat and they'll say, "Oh no, I live here in America. I'm just out here just fishing, just enjoying myself." And like, meanwhile, they've got like, you know, a ton of cocaine on board that's hidden. But what'll be a dead giveaway would be like Mexican Coca-Cola, or they'll have beverages, or they'll have like a bag of chips or something that's clearly not sold in the U.S. It's got Spanish written all over it. You know, like just those little things like that are just dead giveaways that this boat is not. It didn't come from the U.S. It's on its way to the U.S. And I know they look for certain things like that. It's not just the conversations they have with the people who are operating the vessel. They also look for just little things like that, like the beverages they're drinking and stuff like that, which I'm sure they're also doing with these human smuggling vessels too.
They're seeing a level of sophistication in these smuggling operations that doesn't
people,
match up
idiots,
with typical
they don't
human
really,
smuggling.
They don't really
no,
think
it looks
things
like there's
through
something else going on here,
enough.
but what could it be? Look at this. Rogue devices found hidden in Chinese solar panels could destroy America's energy grid. The undocumented devices, including
that's a whole
cellular
nother
radios,
set of
were identified
problems.
in solar power
That's why we
inverters,
need to quit
batteries,
buying
and
from
electric
China.
vehicle chargers. Experts warn
China, they're nefarious, man. The CCP, they want America to, you know, to put it in simple terms, to go down. They want to become the global leader in every conceivable way. They want the biggest economy. They want the most technology. They want to be manufacturing everything. And they keep doing stuff like that. They keep embedding little chips and stuff like that into our electronics to spy on us or to insert malware, things like that. And it's really problematic, and I mean that's why they banned the company Huawei, which is a Chinese phone manufacturer,
devices could bypass firewalls,
from selling their products in the U.S.
manipulation,
because they were inserting like malware and shit into
shutdowns. This could damage power grids, damage infrastructure, cause blackouts, which might explain why people are bringing communication devices into the country. But it doesn't stop there.
Sure.
Chinese spy cranes in U.S.
Don't
shipping
forget the
ports
balloons.
are equipped with secret modems that could be used for espionage or sabotage.
Yep.
This, you've got these cranes that take food and supplies off container ships, and inside of them are things that could allow them to be remotely operated or shut down.
Yeah, and not to mention that China steals, what was the number, like $500 billion worth of American intellectual property on an annual basis, basically meaning that they'll take the schematics from like the newest iPhone, and the CCP will go into the factory in China where they're producing these phones, and they'll take the schematics on how to build the phone from scratch, and they'll say, well, this is the property of the Chinese government now, and they'll take those blueprints, those schematics, and they'll hand them over to a company like Huawei. They're like, here you go, start making this phone and just slap your company logo on it, and we'll start basically producing a perfect exact copy of an iPhone, but we'll just charge a smaller amount of money for it. But they do that with all kinds of American intellectual property, and they do the same thing when they come over here. They try, whether if they're trying to infiltrate the federal government or local governments or even local companies or other entities like that, they're trying to take as much from our country as they can, because communist countries, they can't innovate very well, because the communist structure doesn't really support innovation very well at all, because there's not really much skin in the game on the individual who wants to be innovative. That's why a lot of people who want to innovate, they come to countries like the US, and they don't find themselves building amazing things in China. So as a result, China has to find ways to steal what they can from the United States and reverse engineer it if they have to, and start producing that stuff on their own. And yeah, it's been a problem for many years, and that's why we got to stop doing business with China.
In my opinion, be used to injure people. Some people are saying that folks in the country today could be tasked with activating some sort of rogue device if there are tensions between the U.S. and a potential foreign adversary. But here's the frightening part about all this.
Between the US and China.
NBC News obtained another piece
of
surveillance footage
more and
from
more.
almost a month earlier that shows close to 20 people getting into this U-Haul, which police confirm was never caught.
And I wonder where the U-Haul was going.
You've got the guy on the phone.
Was it leaving Florida?
Directing people
That's what I want to know.
Van,
like, where was that van destined to go
escaped into the country somewhere. We don't know who's on it. We don't know who those people are. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what they're up to. What do you think?
Yep. Well, and not to mention, the stories that came out from when the Biden administration was still in power, they were flying plane loads of immigrants from outside the U.S., and they were flying them in under the cover of darkness and landing them at international airports around the country. And they did that by bringing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of immigrants into the country, and they were resettling them all over the place. That's where so many immigrants that wound up in Chicago and in New York City, they weren't just border crossings and the state of Texas bust them up to New York City. They were also being flown in under the cover of darkness. That actually happened too. So anyway, that's pretty much all I got. So yeah, human smuggling, it's a huge problem. Even though just because the Trump administration is in power right now, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's still very much happening. I'm sure they're doing a lot to crack down on it. I'm sure it's probably, a lot less problematic than it was even just 1 year ago, but it's still going to be a continuing problem because it's just too damn lucrative. Being able to charge $35,000 per Chinese national just to take them on a boat from the Bahamas to Florida. That's so lucrative, especially if you're an individual who's really got nothing to lose. You got no prospects, you got no real skills, no real talents, nothing, the future kind of looks bleak to you. So yeah, that's going to continue being an issue, but hopefully they'll keep cracking down on it, and hopefully they'll make some good headway in the near future. But anyway, that's all I got. See you later.